Before we go to the one another text that's our theme for today, please could we first read Luke chapter 6 and verses 17 to 26. And consider this as we read Jesus' words. What difference will it make to our relationships with others if we are, for instance, the rich one or the poor one? If we're the hungry one or the well-fed? If we're grieving or laughing? If we're the one in the relationship with a bad name or the one in the relationship with a good name, what difference will it make? How will all these factors affect what I shall call our standing in the relationship? Most of us would really like to have the kind of standing in all our relationships where we're the ones who've pretty much got it all together. There's a problem with that though, and it is this. I've found over and over again that I can only have one sort of relationship. I can't have a better relationship with God than I have with you. I can't have a relationship with God that leaves my relationship with you unchanged. So, if I want to have everything all together in my relationships with you and be well regarded and be the one with it all to give, I'm going to struggle when it comes to a relationship with God, aren't I? That's the problem. Having understood the principle, let's flip the question. We've said in our relationships, if we want to have it all together, we'll struggle with a relationship with him. Okay, so what do we have to be in our relationship with him? Can we be like that in our relationships with each other? Well, think about it. Yes, we can. In our standing with him, we have to acknowledge that we're the needy ones, we're the hungry ones, we're the ones with unresolved grief, the ones with a bad reputation, and he's the one who can sort us out. Is it possible to have that kind of standing in our relationships with one another? Absolutely. Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Or as Peter puts it in 1 Peter 5:5, all of you clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. The implication behind clothe yourselves is that in just the same way as we can choose how we present ourselves with our clothes, we can also choose what kind of standing we adopt in our relationships with each other. You might want to pause the video here and discuss, what kind of standings do I have to choose from in my relationships with others? What can I choose and why would I choose those things? What kind of standing can I choose if I want to bring the best out of others? Notice the because that Peter gives. Why do this? Because by choosing to adopt the humble standing in our relationships with each other, we're giving God the kind of relationships he can really work with. Notice also that Peter commands submission in this verse. Here it's from the younger to the older. Paul in Ephesians 5:21 makes it into another one of those one another commands. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Note where that submission originates. You might want to read 1 Corinthians 12 to 31 at this point. Is our standing in our relationships going to be dictated by our notions of inferior or superior, important, unimportant, exceptional or average? Or are we an undivided body with each part having equal concern for each other? Let's look at Mark chapter 10 And first of all, read verses 13 to 16. What is the disciples' problem? Are they protecting Jesus from time wasters? Or are they protecting their own position, do you think? Seeing their own unique access to Jesus devalued if these kids can just walk straight in on him? What happens to church if we all try and preserve our own superior standing with him? What are the characteristics of little children receiving? See verse 15. How can we clothe ourselves with them? Now read on, verses 17 to 31. I suspect that for this young man, it isn't just the money. It's a whole way of life that he can't let go of. Wherever he's gone, whoever he was with, until now he's had the kind of standing in these relationships where he was the one with it all to give. How can he now learn to receive? Well, he decides that he can't, and he goes away sad. What do we find it hardest to let go of? How can we do it? Verse 27 is the key here. Notice the choice between reward now and reward to come. See verses 29 to 31. Most people choose the kind of standing on which to conduct their relationships so that they can see they'll get the reward here and now. But as we've already seen, followers of Jesus choose the standing that gives God something to work with and therefore involves a reward to come. So that said, read on. Read verses 32 to 45. Notice how Jesus is going to be and is the embodiment of all that he's taught in Luke chapter 6 and verses 17 to 26. He's going to be the one who's poor. He's going to be the one who's hungry. He's going to be the one with a bad reputation. How does Mark chapter 10 verse 45 motivate us to submit ourselves to one another? Again, we focused on an attitude of the heart, and it might be good to finish by looking at some practical one another commands that naturally arise from this attitude. So, why not look at 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 9, at 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 33, and then finish with Galatians chapter 5 and verse 13. And if you have been, thanks for joining in.